Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
And so here we are to the doorstep of another home season for Penn State. Bowling Green coming up tomorrow. The Chiefs-Ravens game, there were 5 penalties called on the Ravens for lining up in the backfield. No offense, he lined up in the backfield.
It was a consistent call, and Harbaugh was mad the entire time, and he was talking to the official, and he was like, you can't call that, and he's like, he's behind the line. The play starts, and he throws his flag, and Harbaugh throws his arms up like, what are you doing? And it's like, he's in the backfield.
I mean, look, okay, this is why you play your players at least a game in the preseason. Why? Because the point of emphasis comes out in the preseason where it doesn't matter, as opposed to, hey, let's all start now. No, guess what? You get penalized 5 times because you're lined up in the wrong spot. Okay? The bottom line is you don't think you're good enough to line up in the proper spot.
And
see, that's the issue.
yeah.
The issue is, and it's not as if the Chiefs –
I was going to say,
we'll get
to Juwan Taylor in a minute.
Juwan Taylor, who had a lot of penalties last year. But these players that lack confidence do that over and over and over again. I can't handle this guy. I can't handle Karlaftis. No, just line up. Get your backside up there. Let's go.
And I many people may not have behind the scenes as to how it looks, but I'm presuming, we've discussed it a little bit, that during the offseason or leading up to this season, the referees have told every team kind of like what they might be looking for a little more and to clean up a little bit. And this would clearly have been one of them because Tirico discussed on the broadcast and said, we were told by the refs they're going to start calling this big time. And look at that. 3 of the first 4 plays had it happen to Ronnie Stanley on 2 of them and to the left tackle on 1 of them.
Right. But the bottom line is that's why you play a little bit in the preseason just to knock some rust off, but also to clean that up because that's where you can call that penalty over and over and over again with no consequence because it doesn't matter if you lose a preseason game. And that's one of the reasons why you do it. And I know they bring officials into practice and so forth when they do the scrimmages and everything, but still, you got to have something.
And I'm going to ask a question because we both watched the game last night. We saw a little bit of it. Juwan Taylor, you mentioned, was the most penalized player, I believe, in terms of
in the history of man. Yes,
yeah, with 17 last season.
Yeah, I mean,
it looked like he jumped, false started 10 to 15 times, and they called 1 of them last night.
No question.
Were they just not calling it on him? Because it was clear.
There was one that was really close, and I kind of realized the ball was snapped.
But there was a lot where you could see him his right foot would go back, and then the ball was snapped, and I'm just
that's Lane
blatant.
Johnson.
Yeah,
Lane Johnson. He's the greatest of all time. Lane Johnson jumps maybe a third of the time. Okay, I'll be conservative. Maybe a third of the time he starts back. Okay, he's older. Not as quick.
Yeah. And that's a lot
of things
last night. And part of his issue was he was going against someone who's pretty darn good on the defensive side of things, by the way, WOWY, someone who played here at Penn State who looked incredible last night. He played a great game. He was awesome for the Ravens. Chris Jones was absurdly good for the Chiefs. If it wasn't for the fact that he lined up on the outside and it was Lamar Jackson who was the quarterback, he may have had 6 sacks last night. He really could have. He was dominant, flying all over the place. But speaking of flying all over the place, the player who caught most people's attention last night for the Chiefs, Xavier Worthy.
Yeah.
And we discussed it when he was drafted. This dude has speed. He has the fastest 40 time in combine history.
Yeah, I could care less about that. But
what? How? How do they keep getting away with it? The Bills.
Well, getting away with what? I mean,
just getting these players who you're so he is incredible. And you can see that they immediately knew how they wanted to use him. similar to how they did Tyreek Hill, but in different manners and in different ways. How they used Mecole Hardman when he was there the first time. Now he's back here, of course, again. But his speed is extraordinary. And he was awesome last night. He was what the Chiefs needed. And it's going to be potent.
Again, you just went to need. This is what they needed. Okay, you go through the draft last year. Okay, the Bears needed a quarterback. Okay, Rome Odunze is a pretty good pick as the next pick going through. Marvin Harrison Jr. Okay? I mean, there are other people that are highly rated at that position. It just sometimes people fall to you, and like, okay, I mean, Aaron Rodgers fell to Green Bay.
Yeah,
you know, it's just the pattern of the draft. It's not that they continue to do something or whatever. It's just how the draft works out, the pattern of it, and that's, you know, somebody makes a trade because they need a defensive end. Somebody else needs a trade. They need an offensive lineman. You know, they need Worthy.
Yeah, I gotcha. And the last kind of big note I have on the game last night, I know you were watching. Were you watching on Peacock as well? I'm presuming. Yeah.
No, what, last night's game?
Yeah.
No, I watched on NBC.
Got it. Were there audio issues on NBC by chance? Or no?
I don't think so.
Peacock.
Not that I recall.
And this was all over the place last night. Peacock had audio problems. Their audio was... my laptop was turned all the way up. It is a brand new Mac. I could barely hear Tirico and Collinsworth. No. They were soft, and everyone was complaining online, being like, "What is this?"
There's nothing on NBC was clean. I mean, I didn't even have a thought about watching it on Peacock when it's over the air. I mean,
that's good because
that's why I think like tonight's game, for example, I continue to maintain the streaming only thing is a big mistake. Right, in the current environment.
Agreed.
Okay, in the current environment, it is a huge mistake because let's start with this. MLS has disappeared from everybody's radar because right now it's exclusively on Apple TV. It's a 10-year deal. Are you helping your brand? Right, you've got over-the-air outlets that are willing to carry what you're doing. To be honest with you, the National Women's Soccer League, which is actually on CBS, you know, is getting more run with people, right? Why is the WNBA helped? Because they're on ESPN. If they went with a streaming-only deal, they'd be in the witness protection program. But ESPN promotes them, talks about them, pushes them, you know, which is exactly what the brand needs, right? The NFL doesn't need help with its brand, but there are several things that built the brand that tonight goes against in every way, shape, and form. The NFL is here today because of two primary elements, over-the-air TV and American fans. Well, tonight it's on streaming and it's in Brazil.
Yeah.
And the NFL's touting how great this is. The Packers claim they may need 2 hours to travel from their hotel to the stadium tonight. Really? The players have a whole list of don'ts. Oh, and then as soon as they talk about the don'ts, they had to apologize. Apologize for what? I'm not going to apologize. Why would I apologize for saying this is what they're telling us we can't do? Oh, it's a great place. Well, maybe it's not. Sorry, yeah. I'm not. Okay. An American football player is not in charge of the Brazilian Chamber of Commerce, the Sao Paulo Chamber of Commerce. It's your job to make the place safe. Right? If we're told we can't go out of the hotel, that's a major statement. Right? That's a major statement.
Yeah.
We can't insult them. Well, you can't insult them. I can't go outside either. Fabulous. Love this place.
Yeah.
Right? But the two elements that have made the NFL what it is today, they're going against on both fronts tonight. Right? American fans supporting teams in American cities for regular season games and over-the-air TV over and over again, over and over again. Yeah. And look, I consider ESPN and cable over-the-air TV now. It's been a part of the fabric of America now for 44 years, for God's sakes. In fact, I think it was 44 years ago yesterday, I think was the anniversary of it. But tonight, no. American fans, please. Please. Why don't you go? It'd be great. We'll go and tour Brazil. Why?
I know.
Right? I mean, really? We'll watch it on NBC. No, it can't. Oh, we have to stream it. I keep going back to the Chiefs-Dolphins game. They looked. You look at the ratings of the other playoff games that weekend. Essentially, they lost between 15 and 20 million viewers and claimed it was a victory. Right? Yeah. What do you think? We're idiots? See, when people put out press releases like that, right? They think people are idiots, that they're stupid, right? Right? Now, is it true it's a record for streaming? Yes. Right? Is it true that they cut off 15 to 20 million people across the country that actually really wanted to see the game and said, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to pay extra for that.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the reality of it. Yet they give you all the happy talk about, they it's like, okay. People live real lives.
We do.
And in living their real lives, they have to make real life decisions. And they don't need a press release to tell them it's awesome and incredible. Oh, stupid me. I guess I missed out. Oh, well, who won? Right? I can see, for example, I'm fine with the Amazon package on Thursday night. I'm fine with that. To take a package of games and put it on Amazon.
And if every single Thursday game is going to be on this one place, cool.
I have no problem with the NBA taking a segment and putting it on Amazon. Because the rest of it is going to be on NBC and ESPN, ABC.
Yeah. It's like every Monday Night Baseball we knew was always going to be on ESPN. We always knew Monday night was always there, baseball-wise. It was just a given.
Right. So I have no problem with that. I have a problem with, for example, say I'm a Yankees fan. Okay? But right now, 25% of their games are being taken off Yes Network and put on either Apple TV or Amazon.
Yeah.
I got a problem with that.
I do too.
I mean, how many packages as a sports fan are you supposed to pay for? Okay? NBC has this deal. Okay? Why do people have to be forced to watch it on Peacock tonight? And these are the same sentences I used in January when the Dolphins played the Chiefs. Now, did I end up watching it? I did. Okay? Will I end up watching tonight? Yes, I will.
But you are not every fan. You are maybe half the fan base.
Right. But guess what? After tonight, I'm not watching Peacock after tonight. And believe me, I have the discipline after the game's over to go, gone. So, I mean, and it bothers me when an organization or any entity tries to force something down your throat. Right? And I've compared this to the overall world of electric vehicles. Electric vehicles bring with them a long list of positives.
Yeah.
But what did we see for an entire year on TV? EV, over and over again, trying to force it down everybody's throat. Mandate in, was it 2030 or whatever it is? Okay. And guess what people are buying? Gas cars. 93%. People live their own lives. They have their own reality. EVs may be great in the future when they can get, more battery life, less expensive batteries, and so forth. No problem with it. It's nice to have the option of it. But why is America buying 93% EVs? Because that's what they want. It's cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
More convenient. Goes further.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Why do people watch over-the-air TV? Because they're already paying their cable bill, for goodness sakes.
Mm-hmm.
But now you want them to pay more? Now, let me ask you this, though, and I find this always a curious question.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have cable.
I do not.
All right. Is it Hulu you go with? Who do you go with?
I streaming service wise, because I don't have any sort of YouTube TV, any of those things. I just streaming service it. I have Peacock because Premier League for me is the one I watch the most.
That's fine. I have no problem with that. I have no problem with anything you have. It's your choice. Yeah. I mean, I'm fine with choices. Mm-hmm. I just don't like the networks making the choice for me. That's my issue.
Agreed.
Don't force something down somebody's throat. Just okay, I can make choices.
Mm-hmm. And the big one for me is I can either do Peacock or Fubo to watch the Premier League. I got options, and I can also get a normal cable service and get NBC. I have the option of that, which is cool. Whatever I can pick. But for me, I have Peacock. And I've got a couple of other ones like a Disney Plus and Max and a couple of those other ones just that I get from families splitting them, which is going to be changing because of the whole one household thing.
Right, I understand.
But I got a small collection of them.
If you don't mind me asking them, what does this add up to every month?
I would guess it adds up to probably somewhere in the $60 to $70 range for me every month. And I only have a few of them. I don't have every single one. And if I want to watch the Paramount Plus games, I don't have that. If I want to watch the Amazon games, I don't have that either. And I got to pay extra for those. And that's $10-$20 a month for each of them.
Right.
And it's going to add up. And everyone's like, oh, you've got these big deals now that are out there. But that means I'm paying for all of these. And it still costs a lot of money anyway.
Right.
That regardless of what you do, you are paying a lot of money for a lot of things.
See, I would have to now. I don't know how my bill breaks down because I haven't really looked at it.
Yeah.
Because I've got 3 things on there. I actually do still have a landline phone, which I never use, but
it's there.
But it's there. That's because I'm not the person that uses it. Somebody else uses it.
Fair.
Okay. Internet and cable. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, do I have Amazon? I do, but I also have an Amazon Prime. And based on the holidays when the packages are showing up, I more than pay for the okay.
Yeah.
So that's just ends up being part of it. I'm not being charged extra for it.
It is an added bonus.
All right. I don't have HBO, Showtime, or any of that stuff. I don't. Stars, things like that. I don't have any of that stuff. I could really care less.
Yeah. A lot of what I have learned to do is I have a couple I prioritize. So for me, it's always been Disney Plus. It's always been Peacock, because for me, those are the ones that I use the most.
Right.
And then I will rotate what I have, which is what most people do, where they are like, you know what? Right now, there are 3 shows I want to watch on Netflix. I'm going to get through those shows over the span of 2 months.
Right.
Pay $25-$30 and then hop off Netflix and then flip to something else, because that is the only way to do it, where you're not spending $1 billion, but you're still spending so much money. Like, it's still a lot.
The Netflix deal on Christmas Day. See, again, I'm going back to what they're forcing you to do. See, I don't like that part.
Yeah.
Right? What do you mean you force me to do? I got to have a brain. Right? I mean, you're already getting. They already have a 10-year deal with Fox, CBS, NBC, ABC, ESPN, and Amazon. You have a 10-year deal. Okay. Well, this gives NBC the right to throw the game on Peacock? Okay. The game that should have been on Peacock last year, with all due respect, was the Browns and the Texans. Not the game in prime time last year.
I agree.
Right? Same thing tonight. We're going to play the game on Peacock. This will be great. And the Peacock sound last night, according to you, I watched NBC, was bad. I have no problem at all with any network doing the combo of, for example, when Penn State plays on NBC, both of Penn State's primetime games on NBC last year, right, which was Michigan State and then the opening game with West Virginia last year. Were on both NBC and Peacock.
Which is the best thing to do.
That's the smartest thing to do. Now I've taken care of both audiences, people who are streaming like you, right, and people who can get over the air, which means even people with an antenna can watch it.
The idea of optionality has more value than I think is for some reason seen by these streaming platforms. Like for someone, as you said, like me, where if I want to watch these games, and last night you watched an NBC, I watched on Peacock.
Right.
It was incredible for me.
When Penn State played last year on CBS, the whiteout game last year was on CBS. The game was also on Paramount Plus. Again, that's exactly, to me, how it should work. Okay, I thought the goal was to maximize audience.
It was.
Right? Everything that you do in this industry is to maximize audience, not force something down somebody's throats. Okay, back to selling cars. My job is to sell as many cars as possible. Okay, don't tie my hands here because because the market's telling me that I can't do as many of those right now. I had a friend of mine who sells cars. I said, how many did you sell last year? He said 6. I said, 6? I said, last month? He goes, no, last year. He said, they ended up dropping them.
Jeez.
Because it's not worth having them on the lot because nobody's getting them. Again, people make their own choices, right? And as a TV entity and as a corporate entity, don't you want more eyeballs?
Yeah.
Green Bay and Philadelphia
are two of the biggest teams.
Two of the biggest
when it comes to everything going on.
For example, I talked with Guido D'Elia last night. He was on the first half hour of the show. Guido is the one that, man, I want to go back. This may be 22, 23 years ago. Okay. Maybe 22, 23 years ago. Guido was talking to me about branding. I'm like, okay, branding, great. Now, what's branding mean? Right? Well, Guido explained to me what branding happens to be, and this is way back when. Okay? Yeah. And so, and your brand means, and I do talk to my students about their brand. That's why I talk to them about the importance of social media. I said that's part of you promoting your brand. Hey, by the way, coming up tonight, I've got a story on, right? Okay. Don't forget to join me for the game on Saturday. I'll be announcing it, blah blah blah. Where you can find it. That's all part of your brand.
Yeah. And brand very much so matters.
Right. So that's part of the brand. So he was talking about the branding of Penn State football way back when. Well, the NFL brand, was all part of what you're able to do with over-the-air TV and what you're able to do, with people in the stands. I mean, that's where it comes into play, right? So, and they backhand both of them with this game tonight. I just don't think it's right. And they will proclaim it to be a great success because as a corporate entity or any entity, everything they do is a great success. Like, not really. You're going to sit there in the boardroom and brag about how 17 million people didn't watch you?
What do you mean? You don't think it rocks, Steve? Why would that be?
I'm just saying. It's like, to me, that's a big part of this. It's like, okay, that's a success.
Yeah.
We had 17 million people not watch because of your decision, and we're all supposed to. And the league is supposed to feel good about that.
I know.
The league, that's ridiculous. You're supposed to be maximizing audience, and people do want to see. First of all, Green Bay has a national following,
a huge national following.
The Eagles have a big following. And we're just in the Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts. They're an exciting team offensively. Defensively, they're exciting for a different reason. Well, hey, great job keeping the other team in it. All right, good.
Yeah.
But that's the draft. You can't draft enough defensive players. But
They cannot.
But that's a side note. And it doesn't matter if I know in speaking to this, I'm speaking to the audience because there is no way on the planet that the league would ever listen to a single word I have to say about this because they think they are absolutely right and they think somebody like me is a dinosaur and is absolutely wrong.
I would listen to you, Steve.
No, but you know what I mean.
No, I know.
No, you don't understand.
Yeah.
This is the future. Well, guess what? You're supposed to be living in the present.
Mm-hmm.
If you offered on both, and as time goes, streaming starts to take over, you've put yourself in a good spot.
Yeah.
Instead of forcing people. Like, the idea is what? To have you get Peacock, forget about it for 3 months, and pay the bill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's crazy.
Right? They're counting on you to forget about it, that you have it on there, because it's really, that's what they're counting on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, it's interesting they've had audio problems, because the first year with Amazon, on the Thursday night game, it buffered all the time.
It did.
It buffered every game. It's in multiple buffering. Last year, to their credit, I thought Amazon, at least on my set, was smooth, great sound, not one time buffered last season. The fact that Peacock had audio issues,
yeah,
especially considering you just had the Olympics.
Crazy. And listeners cannot see me right now, but they can see you, and that is what matters here on the show. So we are getting that sorted out slowly but surely. I would like to note, by the way, Isaiah Likely last night, I just found out he is 10 days older than me. So I feel bad about myself. So he was awesome to watch last night. And
no, he played well. The toe did come down out of bounds.
Yeah. Wear white shoes, Isaiah. And
he still would have been out of bounds.
Still would have been out of bounds. But it was a thing. But what is it like if you are a quarterback, if you are a Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes brain, or a Drew Aller, and you have a tight end who is that good at not only being a foil for you, but also yards after catch. And we've seen it with Kelsey for years with the Chiefs. We're seeing it with Likely now for the Ravens alongside Mark Andrews. And if you are Drew Aller, you've got Warren, who's real good at what he does. What does that do for a quarterback to have someone like that is going to get you yards?
Well, it's a big target. Let's start with that. Really good tight ends are too quick for a linebacker and too big for a safety. So in terms of the mismatches you can create, you can create mismatches. Okay, I'm going to put a linebacker on the tight end. He's going to cover him. Well, tight end's too quick. Fine. We'll just put a safety because the safety's quicker. Up, he's too big. Right? And that is, I remember talking to Brian Scott about this. Brian Scott was playing with the Buffalo Bills at the time. And they were going to play the Patriots that week, and I asked him about Gronkowski. He says, Steve, that's the big problem. He said, we could put a linebacker on him. He says, but he's too fast for him. He says, I can cover him. He says he's just a huge man. Well, when you look at Likely in terms of stature is a big man.
6'4", right? Rumbles and bumbles and stumbles.
So now you can put the ball up high in a spot, and he's going to be the one that gets to it, right? Where the ball, like the throw he made last night to try and tie the game up, and they were going to go for 2 anyway. That got them within 1 point. The only 2 results of that play were going to be a catch or incomplete. Yeah, and I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I'm not talking where his feet came down.
Where the ball was.
It's just where the ball was. It was either going to be a catch or incomplete. It was not going to be intercepted. It was not going to be intercepted.
You put it in a place where only Likely catch.
Right, because he's big enough to get to it. And that's what tight ends do. The really good tight ends, they create mismatches out there all over the place. They're not going to be the fastest guy out there. Right? They're not going to be but they're going to be faster than the linebacker they're playing against.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, good chance of that. I look at Andrew Rapplier has decent speed. Luke Reynolds has very good speed. Very good speed.
Yeah.
And, if they're physical enough at the line of scrimmage, and can take the hand fighting at the line of scrimmage, they become invaluable in the running game as well. And that, you see how Penn State uses tight ends occasionally as H-backs. But that's what they do. They create mismatches out there. And you don't expect your tight end to go out there and run a wheel route. You don't expect your tight end to run the post and beat them deep, right? But you saw the play Bo Perbula made to Tyler Warren. Fleming did a great job of clearing it out, and then Warren's wide open.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes these guys get lost in the wash because they're looking for all the wideouts all over the place and the running back out of the backfield and like, okay, who's this guy? And that's Likely. I thought Likely was very good last year. Kelsey's had a Hall of Fame career.
Yeah.
Without question. I think last year was the first year he was under 1,000 yards.
2015.
Right. And he was 16 yards short. He had 984. Right.
93 catches, 984 yards, average 10 yards a catch. That's just, there is something to be said about having a tight end of that stature, of that caliber.
Yeah.
And if Likely, he got a lot of run towards the end of last season because Mark Andrews was out.
Right.
So because of that, he got a lot of run. Yeah. And he had looked a little off and on his first year and a half in the league. He looked a little bit like, okay, he's a rookie, but where can we get him to? And last year, that game time was so valuable for him. And you saw it in this game where he just looked confident. The touchdown catch he made was a great catch. He had Lamar's trust to throw it to him. He'd catch it and then made two men miss, made his way to the end zone. That is what any good quarterback likes to have. Brady had Gronk.
And you're not
Manning had Dallas Clark.
And you're not going to double the tight end. The double needs to be for Zay Flowers. Teams don't double tight ends. They get one-on-one coverage.
And the only time you are confident in a one-on-one coverage is if you are the very rare team with someone who is a superhuman athlete on defense. Like for the Ravens, the reason Kelsey didn't have a great game is because Kyle Hamilton's a freak.
And he's a safety.
Yeah, but he's a safety who is big enough, strong enough, and tall enough to physically handle him at least a little bit. Not every team has that. If I'm the Saints, there is no safety we have who's big enough. Tyrann Mathieu, the guy who's going up against them, and he's got a 6-inch, 7-inch height difference against these guys.
The Giants have no player at all in defense like that. Zero. Okay.
Yes. But it is
they're going to win 5 games.
Yes. But it is just tough for some teams to cover them. But if you've got one, you are set. And we saw it last night. Tight ends matter. Noah Gray played well. Isaiah Likely played well.
Mark Andrews he's been a terrific player his entire career.
Kelsey, tight end is a very valuable spot.
I mean, look at tonight, Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert, on a team that has Smith, on a team that has Brown, on a team that has Dotson, a team that has Barkley. Goddard's going to quietly go out there and get 3 to 5 catches in the game tonight. Okay. Yeah. And he's really good. And he's very good after the catch. And that's, tight ends have been important to Green Bay's success.
They have. You've had, Jermichael Finley for years was Aaron Rodgers' guy. You have, now it's, I think, Musgrave for Jordan Love.
Yep.
Having a good tight end does a lot for you.
Sure it does.
And
it goes all the way back. Baltimore had John Mackey. Syracuse guy, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the few that actually was able to break out. No, I'm just kidding.
The Bears had Ditka.
Right. And Mackey, and the Giants in the 80s had Mark Bavaro. Russ Francis was a terrific, Charlie Sanders with Detroit. Look at all the guys that Dallas has had over there. Jason Witten had a great career.
One of the best.
With the Cowboys. Outstanding.
Dallas Clark in Indianapolis. Right. You've got Antonio Gates.
Dallas Clark was playing at Iowa. I think the game was at Iowa. Jack and I are out there Frank, 44. Every time we turn around, he's got the ball. Right? And he didn't play tight end in high school. He played linebacker. Okay. Yeah. All right. Dallas Clark was really, really good. So, yeah, it's It takes a lot to play that position because you have to be part offensive lineman, part receiver.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be.
Yeah.
I'll never Irv Pankey, who carved out, I don't know, a 15-year career in the NFL as an offensive tackle.
Mm-hmm.
In 1978, he began the season as Penn State's starting tight end. Right?
Mm-hmm.
First, I don't know, I think it was the first 2 games of the season or something like that, Temple, Rutgers or whatever. They got to the Ohio State game, and then Brad Scoville took over as the tight end. Pankey moved to tackle. It's like, okay, good. All right. They weren't really throwing, no offense, they weren't really throwing to Irv.
Yeah. But having a tight end matters, and we're going to see it this weekend. Penn State, as you mentioned, has 3 really good tight ends.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Reynolds,
and a guy, by the way, that has a podcast. If he had remained healthy here, Adam Brenneman, right, was, I remember the Wisconsin game in 2013 out there. He was tremendous. So.
He was tremendous. And now switching gears from the pros to the college side, because, of course, Penn State does have a game coming up this weekend. They rolled over West Virginia 34-12. We're expecting not thunder, lightning, hopefully. Just a little bit of rain is going to come down.
Yeah, but in the morning.
In Happy Valley in the morning.
Actually, it sounds like by about 11:30, the rain's going to stop. And the game itself should be dry and actually look more like this in the second half.
It's gorgeous outside.
Which is great news.
So if you, tomorrow, as you call the game, is there something in particular you're going to be watching for on the Penn State side of things? We'll start with the defense, because I think they played extraordinarily well against West Virginia. They played lights out. Is there something you are looking for on that side of the ball, whether it's a player or some sort of scheme Tom Allen has that he's going to start deploying now, something you're watching for this week?
Fewer mistakes. And I mean fewer mistakes by fewer penalties, because they had too many pre-snap jumping, right? Just settle in, settle down. Don't do that. And that's what I'm looking for, because I think that the level of play was really good in the opening game. Penn State has a lot of team speed. Don't take Stewart lightly, the running back. You watch the tape, and Stewart has really terrific footwork. He's not just like a take a ball and take off kind of guy. He can make a couple of jab steps, and he's quick with it. That gets him some space and goes. I like him as a running back. Bazelak's, he knows the speed of this game. He played at Missouri and Indiana, so he knows how to play. It's his second year as a starter at Bowling Green. The tight end, we just talked about tight ends. Fannin, the tight end, is very good. 44, he's a good player.
He had 67 in this first game.
As Jack said to me at practice yesterday, he says, "Hey, did you look at the Bowling Green offensive line?" I said, "Yeah, it looks like 5 power forwards."
Oh, boy.
They're huge.
Yeah.
5 power forwards. Now, are they quick enough? That's I mean, they have the size. I mean, I don't know. You can't tell from with all due respect to Fordham, you can't tell from a Fordham tape.
You'll be able to find out this week in person, watching it.
And so you just want, and don't give them anything. The most important element in this game, and I'll say the same thing before the Kent State game, don't do anything that makes them think they have a chance. I mean, in games that I've done, football, basketball over the years, because your basketball experience has to come into the play here. If you let them hang around, they start garnering some confidence and like going, "Hey, wait a minute, we can," and then they start to think to themselves, "We can win this thing."
You need to put them away.
It goes back to the old Rocky Balboa, Apollo Creed in Rocky 1. Okay, Bo looks at Apollo Creed in the fight, and he says, "Hey, stop clowning around out there." He says, "You think this is a show." He thinks it's a fight.
Yeah.
All right? And you almost have to take that attitude of going, "The heck with this, okay? Every game's a fight. Let's just go out and do it."
Yeah.
And that's what they have to do it tomorrow. if they create a couple of takeaways, that would be. I'm talking about Penn State. A couple of takeaways that becomes demoralizing. Get to the lead, play with the lead, make them believe from the outset. A quarter and a half in, you don't want Bowling Green thinking they have a chance. You want the game to have them look around and go, "Oh man, they're really good."
What game was it last year that someone ran off like a 75-yard touchdown? Delaware. You don't want to have that happen. You don't want to have these major mistakes.
It made it 14-7. It's also the only touchdown that Delaware scored.
But the touchdown happens, and it gives them that little bit of hope.
Right. It gives them a little juice on that side. Like, hey, look, we did it.
And that is a mental mistake. It's a mental error. You don't want to have those happen today. And on the defensive side of the ball, is there a player you really want to watch for? Or you're excited to see how he plays this week, that he played really well last week. Is there a guy who you're like, I want to see if he can keep that up, if he can still play that well, because he looked lights out for us?
Not really. I mean, guys played about the way I thought they would. Zane Durant played really well last week. Really well. Rojas played well. DeLuca, nobody talks about DeLuca, but DeLuca played well. DeLuca's really smart. I love watching DeLuca play because he's a really good athlete, but his brain.
So,
I thought that. Really, there isn't anybody I would target on defense. You would like to see if the game were to go well. If the game were to go well. Okay, let's see what happens when DeJuan Lane's in the game. Okay. Let's see what. Let's see what happens when Alonzo Ford gets a little more run, when Ty Blanding gets a little more run. Let's see stuff like that. Is this a game you let Anthony Specca play a little bit? I'm just saying that if things were to go well. You start now looking at this. Do I put John Thomas in the game at corner? Do I put Antoine Belgrave Shorter in the game? I don't know, because you've got 4 games to play with there. You've got to be strategic as to how you do this. On offense, do you get Tysier Denmark maybe in the game if things are going really well? Do you put Ethan Grunkmeyer in the game if things are going really well? Do you then put Quentin Martin in the game if things are going really well? Guys like that where you're like, okay, let's just say, I know Joey Schlaffer got in for a play last week, but some of those guys, do you put them in that you're Lane, they're not thinking about redshirting because he's already on special teams. But, are there a couple of guys that you mix in there to get them game experience? Again, if things are going well.
Yes.
If you are fighting to the finish,
then you're main guys.
You've got a workable margin, but hey, look, let's just finish this thing out, then they are not going to play.
I'd say 2 or 3 scores, you're probably not going to see those guys come in. But as soon as you cross that 4-5 score, that was usually kind of when you start to really see those types of players come in, the guys you want to see.
Or if you're up like 3 scores with 10 minutes to go in the game, let's just see what you got here.
And speaking of offense, you mentioned it there at the end. We discussed defense a little bit. Is there someone on the offensive side of things that you are intrigued by moving forward? And we discussed the big plays already. We've talked about that a lot already. I know James laughs at it, you laugh at it, but it was a big part of the game. Was Penn State rattled off some big plays last week? Is there a guy you want to watch on the offensive side of things?
I'm the one that said on the talk show last night when Penn State wins the turnover battle and the big play battle under James, they're 41-0.
Yeah.
As he looked at me, he goes, well, that's a powerful stat. But it's a fact. Let's start with this. I want to see Katron Allen have a game where he feels good about. He did so many great things last week. The touchdown catch, what he did on blitz pickup. But look, as a running back, he wants to gain some yards.
He wants 100 yard. He wants 100 yard.
Right,
game.
he wants to gain some yards. I would like to see Katron Allen, just for Katron Allen, gain some yards. He'll help Penn State, but just for him to do it. To the guy who asked the Julian Fleming question last night.
Oh boy,
if Julian he wasn't targeted once. Okay?
Yeah.
Neither was Liam Clifford. Oh, right? Like it was really. I'm sitting there last night thinking. So James looks at him and says, "So you didn't like Trey Wallace's performance last week?" He goes, "No, I'd rather have Julian Fleming." And it's like, okay, and I was like, that's fine. There are going to be games where Julian Fleming's the leading receiver. There are going to be games where Trey Wallace is the leading receiver. There are going to be games where Amari Evans is, where Ty Warren is, where Nicholas Singleton is. There's going to be a game where Caden Saunders might be. Okay,
listeners can't see it, but I did slam my head into the desk a few times.
Oh, no. What, last night? No. I have no problem with a fan asking that. That's
I don't have a problem with them asking it, but I have a problem with I would have preferred if it was Fleming over Wallace. I don't think it matters who does it as long as the yards and touchdowns come with it.
Really,
I don't think.
I don't care which Spike hits the home run.
Yeah.
I don't care which basketball player hits the game-winning shot, and I don't care who scores the touchdowns.
I don't think I don't think there's a fantasy football league for college football athletes, so I don't think it matters in that context either.
See, I sit there and I look at the final score and I go, it doesn't say Julian Fleming 34 and West Virginia 12.
Steve, but did Kyle F throw 7 touchdowns? If he didn't, I don't care who threw those touchdowns. It didn't matter to me.
It doesn't matter. I mean, I want the players to do well for themselves.
Yeah.
Okay? Stats will come.
Yeah.
Now, I realize that when now this is aside from the young person that asked, I think he's a college age person, right? That's fine. Whatever. They're allowed. Yeah. They're allowed to. That's what the glory of the talk show is that you're the ones that get to ask questions. My questions are filler until we get the mic over to where the next question is. Okay? I'm not there to do anything except fill time with a question. I think, I'm hoping it's a good question until the fan gets the chance to ask their question. Well, go ahead. Right? So I have no problem with if he loves Julian Fleming and if he thinks Fleming's the better player. Right? That's fine. That's what the show's designed for.
Yeah.
Okay? No problem with that. On the individual side of it, the players obviously want to have some stats. Right? Because they want to feel like, we could talk about blitz pickups and running routes that clear lanes and things like that. But in the end, right? If the player sits there and sees like, hey, I got 4 catches for, let's say 59 yards, they can sit there and go, okay, hey, I really helped.
It's a tangible thing. Yeah. It's a physical, like picking a blitz pickup is great, but tangibly, the numbers help.
Right. So, instead of you sitting there on a Sunday morning like, I picked up the blitz. That's what I'm supposed to do. Man, I got to get
5 blitz pickups.
Man, I got to get 80 yards. It's like that's what you do when you get touches. You want to be able to be productive with them. So I would like for Katron, I'd like Fleming just to make a catch to make that guy in the student section happy. It's all about his joy.
Yeah, his joy matters most in this world.
His joy matters. But that's stuff like that. It's one game. You have one ball. You have one. Okay, it's one game, the opening game, and you have one ball. You don't have 5 of them out there. Like everybody's getting a shot here. I mean, it's just the way it works out.
Yeah. And for those wondering at home, in terms of the numbers going into this game against Bowling Green, because I know listeners do care about it here on Pop Radio, or here on not Pop Radio, on 7 Mountain Sports. My brain is so wired to pop all the time.
Yeah, that's the difference between you and me.
I know. The over-under is 49.5 for total points, and Penn State is a -35 favorite, so there is a pretty strong number. It opened up at -32. It has now moved to 35.
Well,
so it's shifted a little bit.
As James pointed out last night, they have 32 seniors on this team. That's a rarity today to have that many seniors on a team. And so they're an older group across the board. Now, Basilick he was at Missouri, Indiana. Now he's in his second year as a starter at Bowling Green. I mean, I'm not saying he has an AARP card, but still, he's been around the block a little bit. And for them, look, like they went to Minnesota and won.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what's wrong? Well, guess what? I mean, they have some players. You know, I talked about the tight end, the running back. I tell you, when they get to the red zone, he may come in even in the middle somewhere. But number 3, Lucian Anderson, he's fast.
They also can rip off returns.
Justin Pegues. Yeah, Pegues.
He ripped off a 100-yarder.
On the opening kickoff of the season, he ran it back 100 yards for a touchdown.
Heck of a way to start a season.
Right, which is great, except what really got me was not that. Like, okay, that happens. But then I watched him on a 20-yard punt return. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's certain intangibles when you have somebody back there that has a feel for it. Mm-hmm. He's got a pretty good feel for it. He sees openings, and he has good feet. I mean, Biggie's a good player.
My favorite play to watch, I think, in any football game is a return of some capacity, especially the punt returns, because when you do have that good punt returner, for me watching for years as a Saints fan, Darren Sproles, he catches that punt, and you can see his eyes go in 7 places at once, and he sees, where is a hole going to open up? Who do I have to make miss and go?
Sproles is really not a Hall of Famer, a really good NFL player.
You wanted him on your team, and he did things. Him, Deshaun Jackson for years. We saw it in Philadelphia where he just, I mean, the miracle in the Meadowlands. Like, he drops that ball, picks it up, takes one step back, and you can see he immediately recognizes where he has to go, who he's got to make miss, and just darts for it.
And again, you cannot put a price on somebody who has a really good feel for it. Mm-hmm. And that's a big part of it, because I think, let's just take a kickoff.
Yeah.
There would be an assumption made that you just catch it and you run as fast as you can. No, you got to. There's a design to it, and then you've got to be able to pick out where the opening happens to be, and then accelerate and get through the openings. I mean, there's more of a feel to it, I think, than people realize you have to have.
There are 11 players running at you, and you need to figure out who is where on the field, where is there going to be some slight spaces, and also where can my speed get me to reasonably that I can then use that speed to then get to somewhere else to just go. Right. That's why Devin Hester's a Hall of Famer now, because that man did things returning the ball where he would pick a spot, he would see it before the ball is caught. He'd be like, I can see exactly where I have to go, and he'd return it. He returned them in the biggest games. Like, he was as good as they get.
Yeah.
And so watching the art of these returns, and the NFL watching these new returns this season is going to be a little odd. We saw it last night with the game where it looks a little funky, and it's going to take us a minute to get used to. But I'm intrigued to see what happens with returns.
I think teams are just going to start. It's going to be touchbacks left and right.
It's going to be touchbacks left and right.
I think the teams are just going to, you know what, what the heck with this.
But then we saw, I think, in the start of the game where Tucker, I think, chipped one up, and Carson Steele took it to like the 30. And it was like he got that ball and bolted.
Yeah, but he got it to the 30-yard line. Yeah. Well, it's a touchback. Guess what it is?
Yeah, 30.
Okay. I mean, that's my point. I think you're just going to find, as time goes, you're going to see more touchbacks.
I agree.
And I watch this rule, and I'm like, I don't know. Mm-hmm. That's one of those I don't quite get.
Yeah. I do have a question for you, though, Steve.
Yeah.
Where were you April of 2004?
April of 2004.
April 2004. What would you have been up to, possibly?
Well, I would have done the blue-white game in April of 2004. That's one thing. And I would have done the blue-white game with Joe.
Okay.
So that's definitely one thing in April 2004 I would have done.
Mm-hmm. That's it?
Well, I mean, Easter was probably during that month.
Mm-hmm.
I would have gone to spring football practice during that month.
Cool. Do you know of the country San Marino, by chance?
The country?
The country San Marino.
I mean, I've heard of it.
Yeah. So San Marino, it's located in Italy.
Right.
And they're a country of 33,000 people. So like half of the Penn State student body, give or take.
Sure.
They won their first ever competitive international soccer match last night, or technically their first one since April of 2004.
Yeah.
The player who scored the goal for them was a 19-year-old. He wasn't alive last time they won a match. And they are considered the lowest ranked team in all of FIFA's competitive rankings, where Brazil and all of them are number one. They are dead last.
Yeah.
And they won the match last night, and it had been 141 matches. They had not won.
I think Team USA, I think, is pretty close to this too, right?
Oof. But I just wanted to...
They showed Pulisic in the stands last night.
Yeah.
I'm like going, okay.
But I just wanted to bring up San Marino, give them a shout out here on the show, because I think it's incredible that the last time they won, I was not even in preschool. Just that is where we're going with. I wasn't even 4 years old yet by the last time they won a match. I was 3 and 11 months. So just thought that was something I wanted to shout it out, and I thought you'd enjoy it in terms of a soccer thing here on the show. I think that was a fun one.
Maybe depressed because I kept thinking about Team USA.
Oof. Well, we will be back here on Monday. It'll be you, Jason Lord. We don't have a normal outro today due to some technical difficulties, but that is okay because we're wrapping it up with Steve's big old smile here on the show. And that is what matters. He's going to have a fun time in the booth tomorrow. You can listen to him live on our stations, 99.5, 107.5 The Bus, and Bigfoot Country Legends, 103.7, 104.3. Listen to him on either platform. And he'll be back here on Monday with Jason Lord to talk all things 49ers while I get to smile and be happy that it's a Monday.
Jack Nicklaus career earnings for playing golf, $5.8 million.
Mm-hmm.
Ted Scott earnings this season as a caddy for Scotty Scheffler, $6.2 million. Well, I ended on that.